welcome from Ontario. This is where I'm speaking from, Ontario in Canada. Even though I've got an English accent, I came over in 2018 from England, from Surrey in England, and now I'm here with the wonderful Crandall family. Sarah behind me with the dog is my fiance, and they run Mount Wolfe Farm, where we are today, which is a community-supported agriculture farm. So what happens there is we have a membership, and people come along and they purchase memberships, and they come along and buy our boxes of food, which is excellent. It's all organically grown, and I'll get Sarah to say something a bit more about that later, if that's all right, Sarah. Yeah. But we're really honoured and delighted to have you here at Mount Wolfe Farm on the first of these Zoom Eats for Midnight Kitchen, which is just an excellent project to be involved in, and there are a number of people who have joined us today who are part of that. We are right, and you'll hear a bit more about that as well in just a bit. So we're right here, right next to Puppa's hedge. This hedge that you can see behind us is all black walnuts, oh, there's Nigel. Hello, Nigel.
Hiya.
Hi.
Good to see him. We'll come back to Nigel. He's partly responsible for it. Well, he is entirely responsible for me being here, and for me being able to do that hedge laying behind us, which you'll see there. So I was saying, this is a walnut hedge. We don't normally have. I don't really know much about walnuts, so it's a pleasure to be able to interact with them here. Just a little bit of housekeeping. There are a few of you, so if you can keep your comments for the moment to a minimum, what we do is we're gonna go through a little bit of an introduction called setting the table. We're at dinner, since we're at breakfast. We're gonna table, just really make a space so we all feel and happy, because it's been a bit of a week, hasn't it, or a couple of weeks, or even a couple of months, and I'm sure, like you must all feel kind of a bit exhausted and a bit back and just not feeling too great. So
our neighbors are cutting their grass.
Our neighbors are now cutting the grass. I hope that's not too overly noisy for everyone. We can always go and him. That's great. So yeah, we must all feel a little bit battered, and it's really important to be mindful of these things that are going on in the outside world, but also just give yourself a moment to just let them go a little bit now, and just be here, just be present with the eating and the feasting that we're about to have, and all the friends that you can see around you. That's what we're here for. We're not sort of rejecting any of the things that are going on, but we're just being here now, and keeping all those thoughts in our head, but just being in the moment. So we'll go on and do that. And because you can use the chat function. I don't know if any of you know this, but there are, if you're familiar with, just at the bottom, there's a chat function. So you can actually chat and say hello to people, and have conversations that I wouldn't even know about. So you can say things like, well, I would know about if I read it later, but right at the moment, you can say, who's that guy? Isn't he strange? No,
he needs a haircut.
He needs a haircut. So no nasty comments there, Nigel. So, and if you'd like to contribute, I'll try and keep an eye on the screen as well. Just raise a hand. But there will be moments later on where we're going to go round and we're going to ask you what you're eating, where you're from, what you're eating, and just any other thoughts you do have. So I hope you'll enjoy it. I'm enjoying it, just being here with you guys. So so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create this space and this table. And I dabbled a bit in druidry when I was a bit younger. So and I come from the kind of Celtic tradition. My family were from North Wales. So I'm just gonna invite you to be present in the Deb. Hello. I'm going to invite you to be present in the space that you're in at the moment, and just look at all the things that are surrounding you, and we're just going to do a little bit of place setting, and I'm going to do this by using, sorry, we're having a bit of dog. Could you take them off? Thank you.
Saying that magpies earlier.
that removed the calm for a moment. Do this by taking a place setting, and traditionally in sort of Druid type ceremonies, what we do is we kind of honour and ask for the blessing of the four quarters, and it's just to say, you know, we're connecting ourselves to the oneness of the world. You know, we're all part of one great flow, really, of energy and materials. And so what I would normally do is I just thank the elements, the directions all in turn. So just bear with me and I'll do that, and then I can come back to you. So, okay, here we go. So let's just put this up, and I'm going to use a little bit of a different technique because I've never used place settings before, but it seemed quite apt. So I'm turning to the north to begin with, and I greet Bear, the spirit of the starry heavens, and I ask him to bless us for the meal ahead. I turn to the east, to the hawk of dawn, and I ask him to bless our knife for the meal ahead. I turn to the south, and the great stag of the summer days, and I ask him to bless our fork for the meal ahead. And then I turn to the west, to the salmon of wisdom who lives within the great stream of life, and I ask him to bless our beautiful serviette.
From the West Coast.
From the West Coast. Is it from the West Coast?
Yeah, maybe.
West Coast of Canada for the meal ahead. So we have set our place setting. We're here, we're ready to eat, and ready to join in and communicate with each other. It's just a little space at a time, away from all the hustle and bustle that usually mark our days. So I'd also like to make a bit of an acknowledgement. It's quite traditional in these parts of the world to do a land acknowledgement. And this is really because our settlers on the land. So as many of us are settlers on the land, it's our collective responsibility to pay respect and recognise that this land here is the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nations. And we are here because this land was occupied. And in recognising this space occupies colonised First Nations territories, and out of respect of the rights of Indigenous people, it is our collective responsibility to recognise our colonial histories and present-day implications, and to honour, protect and sustain land. And I think this is one of the reasons why we're here as well. You know, we are connected to and want to maintain a connection to the land, and to honour the fact that people have been here before us and will come again after us. And ownership and connection changes through time is really important. So we're very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful to be here. And I know the Crandall family's very grateful to be here as well. So Deb has just come into the picture, and I'm here with Deb and Sheila Crandall, and their father and mother moved here and bought the land in the 1950s. Would you like to say anything quickly about that?
Yeah, Sheila, no, I'm feeling my egg.
Or I can say something.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. It's actually, we came here in 1965.
Can everyone hear okay?
Yes. This was a very tired dairy farm. Our parents weren't farmers. They started planting trees and they didn't really stop. So we have the benefits of all the trees, the benefits of the
We should have it says in
Which active speaker it's.
So it's a double joy, double blessing. Thank you, Debbie, and welcome to all of you for joining to come, being here today with us. Jim's going
Thank
to
you,
talk
Sheila.
a little bit about Puppa's Hedge now.
I would like to just say,
I'm gonna. Yeah.
so just 2 seconds. I just know, so I'm Deb, the youngest of the 5
Any
Crandalls,
people,
and
Yeah,
I know that today,
his friends.
Can everyone hear? Jane, can everyone? Can you hear?
Yes, it's a little quiet.
It's a little.
Yeah.
You want to
Okay.
come forward a little bit?
sure.
yeah, can hear you.
Why don't you sit
Yeah.
there?
Sit down. So I'm Deb, the youngest of the 5 Crandall siblings, and I know that our mom and dad, Seymour Arnold Crandall and Sheila Taylor Crandall, who died in 1999 and 2000, are here with us in spirit because for them to see how this land is being successioned to the next generation and the next generations is something I think that probably weighed very heavily on them. And so thanks to so many different factors and Jim for bringing this thing together, we're able to kind of be here with them in spirit, but with all of you by Zoom. So it's just an amazing morning. So thank you.
Not at all. Okay, fantastic. Just a little bit more about the before we get onto the food, just very quickly. The farm's growing practices really reflect the love of the land here and the sense of responsibility for its long-term health. So there's not only is there farms, there's woodlots, there's a 10-kilometer system, and much of what we do, Sarah, I think is really focused on maintaining and enhancing biodiversity, isn't it? Yeah. So Sarah's really big into soil health and kind of soil.
Sarah.
If you make the soil right, the plants will grow. That's the most important thing. And she does a very good job at it. So she's looking a bit relaxed and chilled over there because she's had a really, really hard week.
Saturday morning.
So that's us. This is all about the Midnight Kitchen, which is a new venture with that's kind of international in nature, isn't it? So we're very happy to be part of this at Mount Wolfe Farm. And Midnight Kitchen is all about providing a space and forum to share meals and really share ideas around food, to make connections with people, and to really kind of maybe almost ritualize the idea of eating. It's something that we've lost as well, being mindful, and in that moment of eating, really thinking about where our food comes from and all the connections that are made in picking up a loaf of bread or making a loaf of bread. And we'll hear from everyone in a minute about what kind of connections you have with your food. I'd really like to invite other people like Jane, the Janes, to just say a few words at the moment, if you'd like to, Jane, about the Midnight Kitchen.
I've just put something on the chat about it.
You've just put something on the chat about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shall I read out what I've written?
That would be great, maybe. Yeah.
So I started with, what witchcraft is this? And it is lovely to see so many familiar and friendly faces passing through the wormhole by the magic of our modern technical wizardry, which is bringing us together in this imaginarium. So it's created and hosted by our Midnight Kitchen crew.
The switchback speaker is.
Hey, David, I've just put you on mute there.
That's great, thanks, Jeff.
And who are we? The Midnight Kitchen crew, a band of outsiders, outlaws and in-laws, some of us on the inside as well as on the outside. And Jane told us a wonderful story about dandelions in the story garden the other day. And I think we're the dandelions creeping through the cracks in our urban jungle. But I'll leave the rest of it for you to read.
Jim, can you hear me? I'm your dad.
Yes, hi, Dad. Mute yourself at the moment, Dad.
Sorry?
Can you mute yourself at the moment?
Why?
Because we're just having a talk through at the moment, and we'll get to you in a bit.
Okay.
Okay, we're watching. Okay.
Okay, great.
I'm going to unmute you, Jane.
I don't know who's the boss.
I don't know. Yeah, we gotta get sheep here. Let's get some sheep this second.
So Jane, did you want to talk about your
No,
did you want to say your
What was that, Jim?
hello?
Hi.
Hi Jane.
Hello. Hi. Hi.
How are you? Good to hear from you. Have you got you're going to read out a piece on your dandelion, about the dandelions, is that right?
I didn't know I was, actually, but I can just say a couple of words. It's a story, but I mean, just a couple of words, because we all know dandelion is the one that finds its ways through the cracks in the concrete and is really fed by the fiery energies of the earth. And it's known as the children's flower because it's the one that wanted to be picked and given away. And it's the one that wove its magic and did deals with the wind and with the spiders and managed to, ensure that its seeds would spread and it grows, for a long period of time. So I think it's that kind of mischief and vivacious energy that and the outlawishness, as Jane said, that's the all-embracing outlawishness that is why I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of the Midnight Kitchen.
I love that. Thank you, Jane. It's great to be a dandelion.
Getting to maybe.
I'd love to be a dandelion. I love the idea of being a dandelion. So, I think it's about time, really, we got onto why we're all here, which is the food, don't you?
Yes.
Because I've had a lot of protests behind me saying, "Can we eat yet? Can we eat yet?"
And then we did it.
And then they've just started, which is really not in the keeping of things. So I'll just share quickly what we've got here today to eat. I just made some one of these things which I'm sure everybody is doing out there, or lots of people are, which is the sourdough bread. I baked that this morning. I think it looks a bit like an Earth star fungus, which those of you who've been on WhatsApp know. I can send pictures about it. So we've got that, and it smells really nice.
And you taught you how to bake bread.
And this lovely lady taught me how to bake bread, and I'm forever grateful. And it's the ingredients in that come from a place called K2 Milling, which is a place, one of the people who we get products from. And then we've got eggs from our chickens.
Yay.
So we're really pleased to do that. We're going to tuck into that in a minute once we do the mindful eating. So who wants to go next? Jane, do you want to start? What have you got to eat?
Okay, what have we got? It's so cold here in London today, so we're sitting by the fire and we've got some nut and seed bread. And what else have we got? We've got mushrooms from our stay-at-home garden. Let's get there. Just picked this morning.
Amazing.
And we've got eggs too, but not from our own chickens, from somebody else's.
Did you say you grew the mushrooms in your own garden?
Yeah, in our stay-at-home garden under the cupboard.
Oh wow, that's such a great thing to do. We've got some logs that we're growing them on here, but they won't be ready till next year.
There he goes.
Thank you, Jane. Did you want to say anything else while we're with you?
Not particularly. I'll let everybody else get on with their eating.
That's great. Now, who have we got? We've got, I'm going to go across the top, and I've got something called iPad Jihad. What is that? You just have to unmute yourself.
How about Bess? I think Bess is in Delhi.
I am.
Shall I go ahead or not?
iPad Jihad. What's your name?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm afraid I had my picnic lunch a bit earlier. It was very very simple. It was just some hard goat's cheese, an apple, some hazelnuts, and a date. That was it. So it was just a bit of a snacky lunch because I had a bit of a late breakfast, and I was kind of more concerned to be here and see everyone than have a big lunch. So
that's absolutely fine. You know, I think getting people here all together is the first issue, isn't it? Really. So perhaps when we have a little bit of mindful eating, just recall your lunch maybe. All the others,
Okay.
that would be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Alrighty, that's great. So should we have Jane? Jane Ridderford now. Hi, Jane. Good to see you.
I'm mute. So yeah, I just decided to
Carry
put
on, Gary. It's like
the things I like to eat. So I have the first harvest of my salad and nasturtiums of the courtyard where I live that I'm gradually colonizing in a positive way. And so that's some of that's grown out of an old Victorian slip bath. And I have some red Amelia and I think they're called Violetta potatoes and some basil pesto. And yeah, it's my second harvest from the gate where I live.
That sounds lovely. Really nice. Okay, we've got Mars. Hi, Mars. Have you got anything to eat? No. You've got to unmute yourself, Mars.
I've just done it, I think.
Lovely. Mars, I think you're muted your side.
I'll text her again.
That's okay.
Hi there. Am I on?
You are indeed.
Am I on now? Hi everybody. Good morning. I'm eating a lovely fruit salad with homemade yogurt and our organic maple syrup, and with a few sunflower seeds on top. That's my breakfast today. And good morning to everybody all over the world. It's a lovely day.
Mars is another one of the wonderful Crandall sisters. So she's not at the farm. She's in her own house. So hi, Mars. Lovely meal.
Hi there.
Okay, Catherine. Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Lovely hat. I'm really enjoying that hat.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. We were up early because I have a 2-year-old, so we had breakfast quite a while ago. But right now I'm just sitting beside one of my raised beds here, and I'm harvesting our spinach, which is bolting in the heat and sun. And so I'm pulling it all out and seeding in some new kale for the second crop of this space, and I'm going to make some spinach pesto today.
Oh, wow. That's so nice.
Where's she from? Where is she?
And I'm in Waterloo, Ontario. So close to Jerry, just down the road.
Catherine's one of the University of Waterloo as well, aren't you, Catherine? So.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Thanks, Catherine. How about Joe? Joe, what are you eating? What have you got to eat?
And where are you?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, and I forgot to say, where are you today?
I'm in Kentish Town in London, and I'm just down the road from Jeanne and Jane and Jane. We had to have lunch a little earlier because I've got a 16-year-old son and he won't wait. And he's gone off to play Dungeons and Dragons, so I had to get him first. But I'm now making a banana and chocolate bread.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And you're just down the road.
Be round in 20 minutes.
Okay, this is where Zoom really doesn't cut it. You know, how do I get some of the...
Jim, you need to go down the wormhole.
I'll show you a picture of what it's supposed to look like, and then I don't have to show you what it really looks like. Oh, I lost you. Lost you there. Where are we? Yeah. No, it's not working.
I can see your
I don't think I
ceiling.
can do it. You can see me. No, I can't do it. But anyway.
I'm imagining it in my head, you know, and it's
I might post it. We'll see.
now Joe's gone it's all suddenly rearranged, so I've forgotten. No, I think let's have Kate. Hi, Kate. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. So I live with Eric on the Leicestershire-Northamptonshire border in the UK. And I'm eating finally had some time to get good at doing my sourdough.
Oh, that's nice.
So I'm pretty happy with that. And then I've just got some cheese from the farm shop. But yeah, but we're finally having the time to grow a lot of stuff, and obviously we've got our pigs and our chickens. So whilst in this weird situation, we are attempting to live the good life as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to, haven't you? I make the best of it. Okay, thanks, Kate. I'll come back to you. Wanda. Hi, Wanda.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Where are you?
Hey,
where are you
Wanda.
Hi, I'm in London.
Hi.
What part of
In
London?
Kilburn, London.
Oh, Kilburn. I love Kilburn. I used to live not too far away in Wandsworth. So I suppose that is quite distant, isn't it, really, in London?
I know the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you got anything to
well,
eat?
I had my breakfast already, or my lunch, better say, and it was just roasted courgettes and sweet peppers with onions and egg.
Yeah.
So
That sounds
I
nice.
had a toast and a cup of peppermint tea.
That sounds
So
really nice.
I'm done.
Well, like I was saying, if you've already eaten, when we come back to doing the mindful eating, you can probably just imagine what you ate and sort of, and then it's like, I'm a very big fan of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, J.R.R. Tolkien, and if you're a fan of that, being a Hobbit, you have a breakfast and a second breakfast and a third breakfast.
Oh, that's 11.
11 and all those kind of things.
It doesn't really matter anyway.
Nice to see you anyway, Wanda. And,
Nice to see you all.
What we're doing here as well. I just want to say, hands up and say hello to David A.L. Jones, who's just arrived, and we can see just the top of his glasses. That's my brother who lives in Cheltenham, the one who I was mentioning earlier. Anyway, we'll come to you in a minute, David, and you can talk about
yeah.
So
the
where are
sun's
we?
just come out here, which is amazing.
Nigel and family, hello to you.
I wish I could see. Click.
How you doing, Jim?
Oh, well done. Thanks. Yeah, we're doing really well, thank you. It's nice to see you.
Good.
What are you sitting down to eat anything at all?
Well, let's a quick introduction. So we're here in the Chiltern Hills, and as like our London folk, it's rather cold. So we're sat in front of a little log fire. It's cold and wet outside. So I'm here with my wife Sabina and daughter Jessica, and both of them are suffering from severe what's it called? Bread envy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, bread envy.
Bread envy.
My starter died, unfortunately, so I've got to try again.
So we're going to have a bit of a hedge theme because that's what we kind of thought you'd be into. So we've got some honeysuckle here on the table, which smells lovely, picked from a hedge this morning. And we're going to give you all a toast of last winter's sloe gin, which we made. So we'd like to say cheers to you all.
Cheers.
And then Jessica perhaps will tell you what we're having more of an afternoon tea, I think, really, aren't we, Jess?
So I made some nettle, chive, and cheddar scones.
Oh.
I have that with some local cheese and butter. And I'm drinking some daisy tea, which I would recommend, is a bit like chamomile.
And we're washing that down with some elderflower cordial.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's ours.
You are living the life, aren't you? Oh no, it's great to have you along, Nigel and family. As I say, you're responsible for this happening in many ways. So yeah, kudos to you.
It's a very heavy burden to carry, Jim.
I'm sure.
No, he's lost weight since he's been here.
I'm sure it is.
But Nigel, if anybody can do it, you can.
Yeah, no. If anyone, Deb's just said, if anyone can do it, you can. So we'll come back to you, and you can pitch in with the hedge story in a bit.
Sure.
So who else have we
Not the
got?
butter.
We've got, is that
I know, I'm not doing a third
Heine
one.
Schneebelly?
It's me, Jim. It's Deborah.
Oh, of course it is, yes. Hi, Deborah.
I'm just on Heine's computer because mine doesn't, it goes all frozen.
Right, how are you? What have you bought to eat? And just, sorry, where are you calling in from?
I'm in London. I'm in between Joe, Shani, and Jane. So we're all in the same area. It's been a bit of a sourdough few days because I think if you're a spoon carver, you've got to make sourdough bread. And I haven't posted any loaves on the site yet on Instagram because I don't think mine have come up to the right standard. But I got the most amazing starter from one of our members, Stella. Stella, Jane. She gave me this incredible volcanic starter. So I've made pizza, which is here. And then I'm on the 45-minute fold of the bread. It's got that lovely kind of look that it should have. And I'm very proud because I've got a WhatsApp group with both of my children called Bread. So I'm almost as pleased that they make sourdough's bread as that they listen to Radio 4 and wear Birkenstock sandals.
Result, Deborah.
What?
Birkenstock.
I said result, Deborah.
Result,
Times two.
We're literally all wearing them. It's been real foraging time at the moment, so everybody's making cordial. That's why I wanted the citric acid, but I think Joe's got it, Jane.
Oh, good.
Elderflower cordial and elderflower champagne, and it's been a really good elderflower time. And Jane Ridderford, on the dandelion thing, did you know that you can weave the stems? You can make little baskets out of the stems.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been rather inspired by a couple of people. There's one person called Foraged Fibers, I think. You cut the stems and then you leave them to dry a bit, and then you rehydrate them and you can weave them into little baskets. You can do it with lots of leaves, but they're really sweet. They're lovely colours.
I think we'll have to make woven dandelion summer solstice crowns.
Yes.
The only thing about that
Wonderful idea.
Which, actually, our next issue of the Stay at Home Garden, we're going to have a competition for summer solstice crowns. So I'll be making that, and you're all welcome to submit.
Lovely.
Yes, please, that would be wonderful. We normally have a summer solstice gathering here at the farm for stories and food, but we're not doing that this year. But maybe we can invite our members to make and take pictures of themselves with dandelion crowns on. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
That would be wonderful. Deborah has one year made us beautiful crowns for our winter solstice.
Oh.
We normally do celebrate it each time, but yeah, we're having to be creative of how go global.
Summer crowns will be really great to do.
Yeah, lovely.
Excuse me, I'm just going to move on now to Bess. Bess, are you there? Can you hear us? You're muted, it seems, at the moment. So
I've just unmuted you, I think.
Okay, there I am.
Yes.
Hello, hi, you can only see my shoes.
Your magic slippers, Bess.
My magic slippers. So I want to add about the summer solstice and wearing flower garland crowns on your head. And because in Sweden, it's a national holiday that go back before Christianity. And we're all supposed to dance around a maypole, which is supposedly really a phallic symbol. And on this night, you're expected to lose your virginity, which is a euphemism because the Vikings used to sacrifice virgins and some men as well. Anyway, we don't need to do that anymore, but and the virginity is long gone. So, but maybe the dancing around the phallic symbols with dandelion crowns is the way to go forward. I just want to share that with you.
So I'm glad you've joined us. I now feel I'm not the only pagan.
No, Christianity is very thin in the Nordic countries. It arrived quite
We need
late.
to carve as well, ready for the dandelion crowns.
Yeah.
You're definitely not alone, Jim.
Where are you calling from, Beth?
Well, I'm in Delhi. It's 37 degrees, and I have to say that my meal is about to be. It's the dal that Jane shared the recipe of, the dal with the coconut, and that's always a winner.
Fantastic. I'm going to try that out myself. I'm a curry cooker, so.
And it's so rich and so luscious, and to that we added, we make Priya's no panic paneer, because when you make the paneer and you save the whey, and you add the whey to cooking the dal in Jane's coconut dal, oh my God, it's like there's no return.
We should do that.
That's wonderful, Beth. Thank you. And it's great to have you with us.
Yeah.
I'm now going to go to the Lear family with David Jones. Hi, David. Who is my brother? And he's muted.
Just to say.
Hi there,
Hi,
everyone.
David.
Sorry, just had to. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic.
Maybe keep going.
We're in Cheltenham, UK, and the sun has just come out. It's been raining very heavily for about 3 hours.
Yeah.
But we've just got a bit of sun, which is lovely.
Hi, Monica.
Hi.
We've got you on a computer at the other end of the table, so we can't see a lot
It's
of
very
detail.
hard to see you because like the sun is kind of coming in, and then yeah.
Anyway, we are eating
We're having
Monica's.
potato salad.
We are eating Monica's homemade mushroom pie, which is absolutely fantastic. And potato salad and fresh radishes, and
good stuff.
Yeah, it's good to see everyone.
This is fantastic. It's fantastic to see you. Monica herself hails from this part of the world, don't you, Monica? From,
I'm from Kitchener-Waterloo.
Yeah.
So not quite exactly your part of the world, but almost.
Ontario. In this context, yes.
So I don't know what it is about the Jones boys, but we seem to favour Canadian.
There's that Canadian people.
Called good taste.
It's called good taste.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Or a streak of insanity, David. Maybe that's what it is.
Jim, who is there with you in the garden there? Is that Sarah and Sheila there in the garden?
And Debbie. And Debbie. I haven't met you.
Debbie.
Hi. Oh, I mean, I thought it was your dad. I'm sorry, I can't.
No,
I can't see it. Hi, David.
Yeah, I know I'm a very stern elder brother, but not quite a dad.
He can hear everything.
We can't really see detail, but
There's a family reunion going on here. Sorry about that. We've got one more person who is iPad Iddy. Is that the other member of the Jones family?
His dad and mom?
That's my mother-in-law, but I don't know if she's actually there. Diddy? Come in, Diddy. I think she's gone.
She doesn't know she's still there, but.
Hey, Sarah.
Well, welcome, Diddy. We're really happy to have you if you're here with us. I'm sure you're here with us in spirit anyway.
Absolutely.
So now I think, if I missed anybody at all? No.
Is everyone admitted into the meeting?
Everyone is admitted, yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a little bit of, for about a minute or so, not too long, we're just going to have a little bit of mindful eating. So while you're eating, you can think about your food and where it comes from. So just a thought really about.
Can I cut the bread?
You can cut the bread. Yeah, you can prepare the meal.
Woman.
Woman.
Sorry, we already started.
Sorry, that wasn't me. So for those not familiar with the idea of mindfulness, it just means focusing on the present moment, really, while acknowledging and accepting your feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. So you're letting them come into your world, but you're not really letting them own you. My favourite quote about mindfulness actually comes from Kung Fu Panda, the movie.
It was a good movie.
Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. Which I'm sure David can probably tell us it comes from some Chinese philosopher at some point. But it's all about focusing on today.
I couldn't be sure. I think Kung Fu Panda says it the best.
Yeah. So it can apply. It can apply to the concept of eating as well. So when you're eating, you're thinking about where your food's come from, how the process of food connects you to the world, and also even some of the injustices maybe that are felt throughout the food production process and things like that. Not trying to overwhelm you. Just thank you. Just being aware of it. So I'd just like to read also a contemplation just before we start this. And this is by the famous
Jim, could I just interrupt? Could you just ask people to mute themselves because I'm finding it hard to hear you.
Sure. Can everybody mute themselves again?
Thank you.
I think I've done it.
All right. Okay, I'm just going to read a bit from the famous Buddhist philosopher Thich Nhat Hanh, who writes about mindfulness and has written this contemplation before eating. The food is a gift of the earth, the sky, numerous living beings, and much hard and loving work. May we eat with mindfulness and gratitude so as to be worthy to receive this food. May we recognize and transform unwholesome mental formations, especially our greed, and learn to eat with moderation. May we keep our compassion alive by eating in such a way that reduces the suffering of living beings, stops contributing to climate change, and heals and preserves our precious planet. We accept this food so that we may nurture our brotherhood and sisterhood and nourish our ideal of serving all living beings. So, let's eat and let's contemplate.
Jim, this is the best one yet.
I think that was the best bit of sourdough I have made yet.
And no
Would
butter.
you agree?
And it worked with no butter.
No butter.
No butter.
Which is saying something.
I have to say the last effort was really bad.
Was it?
Oh, it was.
What happened was I was making it and I had my salt shaker.
Oh,
just to put some salt in and the top fell off. We couldn't even make salty crackers out of that one.
Plus, you didn't let it rise before you put it in the fridge to proof.
So I'd really like to reflect on that with you. I think that we'll probably leave that to one of the things we can do here is we can share comments on the page where I put the invite. So please do feel free if you want to afterwards comment on that. Send us an email. It's great to have some feedback from what we're doing here. But because we can't be here forever, I'd like to proceed to story time. And I'd like to tell you the story about the hedge behind us and what that's all about. And I will need the people with me to help. So we're going to tell you the story of Puppa's hedge. Now, for those that don't know, let me start by saying what a hedge is and what hedge laying is, because that sort of really helps the story. And also bring in a little bit from why I'm here. So a hedge, like that you can see behind us, is something that's really common in England specifically, but parts of Europe too as well. It's a structure made from lots of living shrubs, which, in order to keep them well, in order to keep a really tight, nice structure as a living fence, at a point in their life, usually when they get to about 2.5 meters tall, the hedgerow is managed. It's managed from it's trimmed, but it needs to be rejuvenated from the base. So what we've done here is we've taken a line of black walnuts, and I'll talk about those in a minute, and we've cut them through at the base, but only about 2/3 of the way through. And each of the plants is then laid over at an angle, one on top of each other. And you can just see probably behind us that it's then stakes are driven in. The stakes are made of ash mostly. And then round the top, to make it stronger, we bound it with willow, which isn't always the best to bind it with. The willow that we have is very bendy. Kind of nice and straight, but when you're in North America, you just have to do the best you can. So, so I came to Canada in 2016 with Nigel. In fact, Nigel phoned me up one day and said, "Jim, do you know anyone who needs an all-expensive or who wants an all-expenses paid trip to Canada to talk about hedgerows?" And I was just like, "Yeah." So, and I was very good. I said, I did say, "Let me think about that. I'll ask around." Always in the back of my head thinking, me. So that was great. And the first place we came to do our hedge demonstrations, and I wish I could go into detail about this, but we don't really have time. It's a saga in itself, isn't it, Nigel, really? The first place we came to was Mount Wolfe Farm. And we laid the first hedge ever to be laid in Canada here.
I'm sure.
You know, I've always thought that you never let facts get in the way of a good story. So
quite right, Ken, quite right.
Yeah. So that's what we did. Now, when we came to Ontario, when we came to the farm, we were looking for a hedge to lay, or something that looked like a hedge. And we were assured by people on the farm that there was going to be a hedge that we could do. And when we got here, it was like, no, nothing really fit the bill.
May I jump in just very quickly?
Yes.
The look on Nigel's face when I showed him my first choice, he was trying to be very polite, but absolutely horrified. Just horrified. It was like, that is not a hedge. That is about 3-5 plants, kind of higgly-piggly. No, won't work.
Yeah.
So that was funny, Nigel.
So, and I can't understand why we didn't think of this line of black walnuts here, but we didn't at the time. I think it's probably because they were quite mature, and also because, as we'll see as we continue, they've got quite an emotional attachment. It's taken me a few years to actually convince Sheila and Deb that going at them with a bill hook is going to be really respectful to Puppa's memory. So anyway, Puppa who is Arnold Crandall, the father of Sheila and Deb and Mars and Sarah, and Sarah's grandfather, planted. He loved black walnuts.
Oh, did he?
Do you want to say anything about black walnuts?
The reason he loved them
Maybe
is...
could you come a bit closer? So bring your chair.
How's that?
Yeah.
So part of what really interested Dad was trying to find out different ways to propagate things. So he had just buckets of black walnut, and he had all these experiments about we use paper, sawdust, and so consequently they all worked. And so we had a lot of walnut. Dad had a thing for Osage orange, and so the last piece of thing that I saw pre-internet, thank goodness, was, hey Deb, could you check up Osage orange on that thing called the internet? And that was the last piece of writing that I have from him. So I think he just loved experimenting and just looking at this stuff and saying, you know, how can we grow it? So that's how that came about.
So he planted. Sorry, sir.
No, that he planted these as a tree nursery, so they were about a foot apart, with the intention that they'd be transplanted elsewhere. But then he died, and they just kept growing. So we had these walnut trees that were really close together and never really going to thrive as individual trees. But perfect for a hedge. They're in 2 rows, and it's almost as if, without really knowing what a hedge was, he created the perfect thing for 20 years later? Them to be managed. It's really cool.
So it's really amazing that we've been able to do this with Puppa's hedge, and you know, often hedgerows are considered things that separate, you know, fields and their boundaries, field boundaries, and you know that sometimes they have a bad reputation. And I know not extensively, and I know you know, because a lot of hedgerows were planted in England during the Exclosure Act. But for me, I got into hedgerows because of I did a project when I was an ecologist back in England, because hedgerows help connect one woodland to another and allow animals, in this case the hazel dormouse, to move from one woodland to the next. And without a hedgerow, all those hazel dormice would die. Dormices, thank you. So, and for me, the idea also, in a spiritual way, that these hedgerows could connect people from one generation to the next is also really profound. And in doing this, in laying this, for me, it's really been a way of connecting to this landscape, this new place that I find that I'm now calling home, as a way of working in the landscape, of getting bitten by the mosquitoes, of listening to the wind as I've been laying this hedgerow, to sweat and have physical exertion in the landscape. It's something that binds you to the land, I think. It makes you understand it. And it teaches you something about yourself, about how much you can do and how much you can, and what you need. And I need this connection to the land. So it's really important to me. And I know that Puppa, that's why I'm connecting with Puppa through the black walnuts and the hedge. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about black walnuts as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this hedge grows, because black walnut is also allelopathic. So it has something in it called juglone, which is actually kills a lot of plants. So Pliny the Elder from Roman times actually said the shadow of the walnut trees is poison to all within its compass. So we know that some plants like black raspberry or service berry have no difficulty, but tomatoes, pines, apples and birches cannot grow and will be poisoned by the juglone. So that's going to be interesting to see. It may be an interesting thought about a use of a black walnut hedgerow suppressing, you know, all other plants or a lot of other plants, because you have problems with weeds taking over hedgerows. Anyway, the walnut is also considered a nut of the gods. The word juglans goes back to Jovis glans, or nut of Jupiter. And I think this speaks about the power of the walnut as well. And in the American hoodoo tradition, walnut leaves and nuts are used to put jinxes on people, and also in concoctions to help you fall out of love. So I won't be using that in any of my tea, because I don't want that to happen. So, and I'd just like to finally, in this story, read you a little bit from actually a First Nations story about the walnut cracker. It's only a short one, so but I have to read it because I haven't committed it to memory, which is terrible. I know. But a long time ago in western Georgia, among the southeastern Creek Hitchiti Indians, lived the walnut cracker. His name was given him because he spent most of his time gathering, cracking, and eating walnuts in the same spot. He always placed walnuts on a large stone and cracked them open using a smaller stone. I think he might have been a crow, really, you know, because you see crows and other birds do this, don't you? For the rest of the day and evening, he ate walnuts. This was how Walnut Cracker lived for many years. When he died, his people buried him at the place where walnuts grew. Sometime later, a creek hunter passed that very place and found a large mound of walnuts. As he was hungry, he cracked some and ate the good meat. Later that same evening, the hunter returned. He sat down and cracked many walnuts on the large stone. While the hunter was busy cracking and eating walnuts, a man came out of his nearby lodge. He heard someone at the place where Walnut Cracker had lived. He listened and plainly heard the cracking noise. Looking closely through the darkness, he saw what looked like a person sitting where Walnut Cracker sat. The man went back into his lodge, announcing, "Walnut Cracker, who died and was buried, now sits at the same place, cracking walnuts on the large stone. Do you think it's a ghost?" All of the man's family came outside quietly, looking towards Walnut Cracker's place. There they saw someone cracking walnuts on the large stone, who surely looked like Walnut Cracker himself. One of his family was a lame man, a good friend of Walnut Cracker. "Take me along on your back," he pleaded. "I want to see him again." So he was carried on the back of another who walked quietly towards the ghost. That is what they thought, and they stopped in fear. But Lame Man whispered, "Please, take me a little farther." His companion took him a little way, then stopped. The hunter did not hear him because he was cracking walnuts. "Please take me a little farther," again asked Lame Man. The hunter looked up and saw the people through the shadows. He jumped up, seized his bow and arrows, and ran. When the ghost moved, the people ran back to their lodge. The one carrying the lame man frightened and dropped him and left, running back to the lodge. Lame Man too jumped up and ran to his people. He was no longer a lame man. Tribal storytellers say he outrun the others, beating them to the lodge. He walked perfectly ever after. There's an interesting little tale, a funny little tale, I think, which speaks to the kind of purging qualities of the walnut, which is not only a bad thing, but in this case actually helps someone out by getting rid of their lameness, which is really quite fun. So that's my story from here. And I think if anyone else would like to, I'm just going to check the time, and if anyone has to go, we'd also like to.
Jim, I am going to go. I would just like to bid adieu to everybody. I've got to go see my chickens, the ones who laid these eggs. Much love to everybody, and we'll see you at the next Midnight Kitchen, which is solstice.
We don't know yet.
Okay, we'll see you at the next kitchen. Bye-bye.
Bye, Deb. Bye, Deb.
So I'll be back for the stuff to cook too.
Sorry, Jim, we've got to go too.
Okay, nice to see you, David. Thanks for joining us.
Be in touch soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
We'll come to the next one.
Sorry, I'm just looking at my data. I just have to update my data. So if anyone has anything else that they'd like to add while I'm doing this, just.
Jim, I'd just like to add thank you. It's been really lovely.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm really happy to have shared this moment. This is a moment really for us to sort of bring it to a close. If anyone's got any other comments or stories that they'd like to say, please do go and go onto the on the invite and post your comments there. Before I've got a blessing and a farewell to give to people, but I want to give anyone the chance, if they want to say anything, to please pipe up and just comment.
Yes, Jim, it's your dad here again, and
Hello, Dad.
What? We've been trying to break into you lot, talking all this wonderful stuff and stories. I'm sorry we have to leave for reasons which you can guess, but yes, it's very good, but we found it intellectually absorbing, shall we say, regarding food.
We'd just like it to pass a comment on what we've been thankful for. The Spring Watch on television has been absolutely wonderful. Volunteers in our community who help with shopping, and clapping for carers. That has been lovely.
Carers goes without saying, since
Yeah.
our number 2 son is on the front line anyhow,
Yeah.
causing a bit of anxiety.
And my birthday last weekend, and Kiri and our daughter and her family came down into the garden, which was lovely. So we've got to be thankful for all that. And we're fine at the moment.
And we can't talk too much about food. We've consumed our lunch. So we'll try and store a few stories up next time.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, we're leaving, I guess.
Nice to see you all.
Thanks, Mum and Dad. Yeah, I'd just like to give also a shout out to my brother Stu, who's a doctor at Red Hill, East Surrey Hospital, and just one of the things about spaces like these is remembering people who can't be here and amongst us. And I know he'd want us to think about Arthur as well.
Oh yes.
Okay then.
Jim?
Yeah?
We had a couple of little things we'd like to say.
Yeah, please, Nigel, chip in.
As a fellow hedge layer of Jim, I'd just like to say the 17th stake along behind you is slightly crooked.
Not the only one.
But in all seriousness, one of the things that came through my mind this morning was about passing on things from past generations and them still being in use, which I thought was kind of an interesting idea. It's a bit like recipes, I suppose. In the old days before we had the internet and we could write things down, recipes were passed on by word of mouth, I guess. But so we just picked some stuff here, and if Sabina would pass, you can see me all right, can you? Yep. Yeah. So I was thinking about what things do I use, and I'm a professional hedge layer. Could you pass me that first? This is my father's old billock, which I had repaired and polished up, and that hangs. It's not used in anger anymore, but it's up a special place above the fireplace, so that's very special. Now, when you're laying hedges, there's some very tough stuff in hedges. So we have these hedge laying gloves. These big, thick mittens were my father's. Again, more ceremonial now than in use. They've gone very, very stiff. But this is a nice little story. That a lady who keeps horses opposite in a field opposite banged on the door one night. She just lost her father a few weeks before. And she came over and she said, I'm sorting stuff out, and I've got his old hedge laying gloves. He lived in Wales. And she said, they're very, very special. They're one of the most special things to me. And I was very, wow, that's amazing. She said, I'd like you to have them because you're still laying hedges. You're still using them. And that was very, very special to be given her father's hedge laying mittens when they were so special to her. And I said to Sabina, my wife here, who grew up in Germany, what she still has that she still uses. And she found some things.
Okay, so I've got some wooden tools here. These are sort of like wooden hammers that were used already by my grandmother to tenderize meat. So you would have a piece of meat and you would make it really thin and tender using these. I've also got a carpet beater that I remember my grandmother using before we had hoovers, because the carpet would literally be taken outside, put over a pole, and then beaten to get all the dust come out.
And I promise you that's still in use. If I come home late from the pub, it's...
Yeah, and for other things too.
Now, Jessica, I actually turned to Jessica, almost forgot to tell her. I said, Jessica, I forgot to tell you, could you get something that's been passed on to you that you're still in use? And there's a bit of look of horror, and then she said...
I actually happened to be wearing a shirt that Dad's mother made, which I wear all the time. And I always wear mother's jewelry as well. So just already had it on me.
Nice.
So we thought that was a nice idea, the things that you pass on that are still in use. And finally, I'd just like to end with a little poem, which I think Jim will probably know. One of the things we have in Hedges here is blackthorn, which is where you really need a pair of thick gloves. And it's pretty horrible stuff, very important for wildlife and stuff. And our slow gin, cheers once again. But this is, you know this, Jim, it's called I'd Sooner Go Hedging. So this is a derogatory remark in a sense about blackthorn, that if something's really bad, I'd still rather go and lay blackthorn. So this is called I'd Sooner Go Hedging, and it's in a bit of a Cotswold accent. I'd sooner go hedging than build a stone wall, or pick up and place it and hope it don't fall. When east winds blow bitter and keen in the trees, I'd sooner lay blackthorn than drywall and freeze. I'd sooner go hedging, the best thing I know, for anger and anguish and women made woe. No matter how hurt or insulted I feel, a tussle with blackthorn will help it to heal. I'd sooner go hedging than read in a book, for more you get thinking, the darker things look. Since study and weeping are hard on the eyes, I'd sooner lay blackthorn than learn to be wise. I'd sooner go hedging than writing a verse and weaving and rhyming as if by a curse. For little men care what a poet may scrawl, but a blackthorn well laid is a pleasure to all. I'd sooner go hedging than seek all my days for wealth and position or other men's praise. Plain bullock and axe are the tools of my trade. 6 shillings a chain is the rate I'm paid. I'd sooner go hedging than lie in my bed with a wench that grows sourer the long she's wed. And much as I grieve for our loving when young, I'd sooner lay blackthorn than suffer her tongue. I'd sooner go hedging, but come next spring, I'll be up and be gone like a bird on the wing. And all I shall miss when I reach my new home will be hedges to slash at and blackthorn in bloom.
Ah, Ray, that was lovely.
I can vouch for that, having reached my new home, having found a hedge. No blackthorn, but there we go. Thanks, Nigel. That was amazing. I'd forgotten about that poem. Who's it by?
Oh, it's by someone called, hang on, Frank Mansell, and I think someone did put it to music, rather a nice folk song as well. Frank Mansell from Gloucestershire.
Can I ask Nigel something?
Yes.
I carve spoons, like some more of us here as well. Blackthorn is the most wonderful wood to carve.
Is it indeed?
And it's really brilliant when you can get a nice, a nice bit of blackthorn, because you get the very, very dark heartwood. Do you ever come across?
I certainly do all the time, and it's interesting. If you want me to put some lumps aside, I certainly shall.
Where are you?
Just in the Chiltern Hills, about an hour west of London.
Oh, right. So on the M40.
A couple of miles from the M40, yeah.
Near Henley on Thames.
Now, you spoon experts, you might get a laugh at this, but in the lockdown, Jessie and I, complete amateurs, have started doing a couple. We're very proud of them. We've got that was a bit of maple that grew naturally in that shape.
Lovely. A Bentwood spoon.
That was hazel, a bit of a spatula.
Yeah.
These were white beam, which were quite, but we don't know what we're doing, but I hope they're okay.
How did you learn how to do it, and where did you get the tools from?
I taught them online, actually. I was meant to do a little class, but then obviously everything got cancelled, so I thought took it.
There are some online videos as well.
Yeah. I'll put the blackthorn aside for you, and
that would be great. I do actually drive up that way quite, not regularly now, but I do go that way.
Anything you find in a hedge, I can get for you.
Great.
Deborah, Jane, do you think it would be okay if Nigel and Jess joined the?
Join the spoon union.
Oh.
Yeah, join the spoon union, and just worth mentioning, Father Spoon, he does some fantastic online classes. I've learned so much from him, and I know you have as well, Deborah.
How do we do that?
Jim, if you put them on the WhatsApp group, then we can give you the links to online classes.
Jim, I'll make you an admin on the group.
Sorry?
I'll make Jim an admin on the group.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, am I admin on that group?
Yeah.
No, I don't know how to do these things.
Yeah, you set it up, Deborah.
You're the queen of spoons, Deborah.
Okay, well, I need your details. So Jim will provide that. Yeah.
Will
certainly.
Great.
So I'd just like to thank you, Nigel, for that, and for sharing your items in your house, which I think is really good. Linking, I've got my Yorkshire bill hook here, which I use to do the hedge with, which was given to me by an old hedge layer friend. Oh my God, his name's just that's terrible, isn't it? Nigel.
Pete Tunks.
Pete Tunks, yeah, champion hedge layer. Sadly died this year, didn't he? But I hold his bill hook in respect. So I'd just like to bring us to a close, really, because I'm sure you've got other things to do.
I don't know how it works. Up here somewhere.
I'm just going to say a little, two little blessings, really. It's going to be one or the other, but I couldn't choose between them. And the first one is by my favorite author, really, from when I was young, of course, Tolkien. And he wrote, Frodo, in fact, and Bilbo spoke. Roads go ever on and on, under cloud and under star, yet feet that wandering have gone turn at last at home afar. Eyes that fire and sword have seen, and horror in the halls of stone, look at last on meadows green, and trees and hills they have long known. Roads go ever on and on, over rock and under tree, by caves where never sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter sown, and through the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, and under mountains of the moon. And finally, an Irish Celtic blessing, which to you all really, which is may the roads rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the rain fall softly on your fields. And until we meet again, may your God hold you in the hollow of their hand. Thanks everybody for coming. It's been really great, and I hope we will see you again at some of these other events, because there will be others hosted by other people in different places. So, but I'm sure we'll have one again here at the farm. So, yeah, we'll see you all again soon, I hope. And just take care, stay well and healthy, and you know you're not alone. You've always got people to talk to. Nice to have you.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye.
Bye, Jim.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. See you soon.
Bye. Bye. Bye, Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Go and straighten that steak up, Jim, please. Bye.